Welcome, Kirsty Elizabeth, my social media friend, my acquaintance through Facebook, and a wonderful psychic and astrologer and realm worker and divine sister. Welcome to the Jill Butler podcast.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you so much for inviting me as well, because I haven't spoken live for such a long time, and it felt like a calling, a wake up.
Your voice is going a little wonky again. I hope we can get through this. Wow, this entering into this equinox is really something. Oh, there you go. You came. You're back. You're back.
Oh, is it back? All right. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, as I just explained to you off air, that I am having a night of technical issues happening in my house, of things working, not working, coming on and off. And we're also expecting thunder and a tornado. So apologies if the weather interferes, but that'll teach us. We're trying to connect on a equinox, wouldn't it?
Exactly. We're gonna do this because the universe wants it to happen. So we are participating in this.
Okay, I'll trust you to tell me if you can't hear me. Just wave.
No, I appreciate so much you holding space for this and you coming on this podcast. There's so many people right now in these really tumultuous times that are needing some of your guidance and your understanding and your wisdom. So I want to throw over the mic to you and just let you express to all that are listening, you know, your ideas and understandings of what we're walking through right now.
Okay, so I'm not going to, linger on the equinox, because somebody listening to this in a year's time, this will be gone. But what I'm going to do is talk about how right now is the time to be talking about what's going to happen in a year's time and further on. And the talks that I've given on Facebook have been right into the future, where my the dates that I've been given is actually the year 4444 as a benchmark. And that was because the guides were trying to tell me that recent angelic contracting that we undertook in the March equinox of 2023 was a major turning point for humanity. They say to me that this was the first time that such a great percentage of people were in contact with their angelic guides in their subconscious or through their higher self or through their sleep state, and that we were being given a chance to realize that many of those of us who've been aware of being like spiritual journey, probably since childhood. I mean, I don't know about you, but mine's been since childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were saying to me, because of where we've hit and what's been happening with energetically and the changes that have been made, there's a bulk, like a mass of people now, the first time ever that this amount of people are ready to listen to the fact that they have changed and that they're energetically different and that the possibilities of where they go next is different. And that there's been many factors to this, but trying to break it down to people to bite size, to understand it day to day or hour to hour, is that the guides have expressed to me a certain category of people, if you like, that I decided to call Earth Angels. And I actually term the people that went under the new contracting in 2023, which is the angelic contracting, which is the soul contracting, which you may know is often spoken about. But this was something that I was just listening. By the way, you give me a lot of titles. I'm just a listener, because I don't know what I am or what I'm doing. I'm just listening each moment. So they said to me, this is the first time such a great group of people have got together. The angelics are coming in. There's a whole system with the angelics that goes right through a hierarchy. And this comes down to contact with your guardian angel and your guides. And for quite a lot of people, spirit members of the family that may have passed, that or people that may have known them in the physical world but are now on the other side. And it was going to be like a team effort, but you wouldn't remember. So even though they've told me this, I don't know what I've agreed to. I don't know the actual contract. But the point is that you can't normally change your angelic contract like that in a lifetime. And so a few people have been able to reach that point of, say, shall we say, ascension, that they've clicked something karmically and they've been able to reach that and have been able to actively alter their angelic contract during their lifetime. But this was the first time that the angels were excited that such a great group of people were ready. And I named those people the New Earth Angels. And those people are spiritual seekers, and they come from a vast array of what they might identify as being spiritual to themselves, and what sort of guides or entities they work with. It's a huge cosmic alliance. It's not just a few good deeds. And the idea is that we were asked to recognize the changes within our own bodies and to decide whether we wanted to push the boundaries and push things further in terms of evolution. Are you okay?
Yeah, it was just getting a little scratchy for a second, but keep going. You came back.
Sorry. Okay. So the idea is that we are now evolving as angelic beings within our human existence. We've got angelic support with us energetically, that we've always had that, but to actually have it coming through, through our sort of physical body, and to actually feel a part of it rather than it be a separate entity.
An integration of sorts.
Yeah, it's a new experience. So the whole purpose of the what I called this an angelic agenda, because I didn't know how to express it. When all this came through to me, I didn't know how I was going to put this out to people, who are just listening in, and it all felt like, oh, it's a great big huge story, and trying to slice it down and actually give it some groundwork and then actually get some people to understand it has been a real slow, a sort of drip approach, if you like. So everything that I write about, everything that I speak about is all encompassing, and it's quite a wide subject. So it encompasses a lot of different things. But the main idea of the angelic contracting is that change for humanity comes, firstly, through our evolution as physical beings. We are going to change. We are going to lose this form. And those that are working on the agenda with things like the environment will understand that better than anybody, because those people might previously have identified themselves as energy workers. Where I come from in the UK, it's likely those people are witches, if you know what I mean. In other parts of the world, it's shamanic teachings and practices. But it's energetic workers, perhaps, that understand this better, that because they are so in tune with nature and the weather patterns and, cosmic changes within them, as if they're reading it, that they might understand first, I think, that humanity is evolving. And the reason we're doing all this letting go is not just because we're trying to let go of, like Kirsty's got to let go of what happened to Kirsty when she was 21, 27, 30, It's not just about that. We've got to let go of being human, because we're evolving into something else. And all this light that's flooding through us is changing us. And so the reason they gave me a date so far away, 4444, was because they wanted to express that the people that I would be talking to, they assure me will understand and believe that we don't just live once, that we're eternal. And so many people who are currently living have experiences of that sort of either memory or sensations or connections with things that are connected to their spiritual seeking, that they have a real sense of, this isn't just me here, you know, this is just now, this moment. So we're not just evolving as a person from a baby to a teenager, to an adult, to an older, and then, you know, we're actually evolving through different bodies and different beings eternally. So the evolution that they're talking about, by the time we get to 44, you know, I always say to people, I'll see you there, because the people that I'm talking to that are here on this mission now, they get that. They know they're not just here for now. They know that this is all eternal for whatever reason, whether they've seen spirits and spoken to them, you know, whether they've had experiences or just from a really strong faith. So
Well,
that's the sort of,
I, don't you feel too? I also feel I've had a lot of guidance to understand that as we flow more through the light, and as the light we become more that light, we're going to exist in our light bodies much longer. So there'll be less incarnations because there'll be longer incarnations.
well, one of the ways I can understand it, because I have to try and understand this as me, you know, so one of the ways to understand it is, if the angelics are in a hierarchy of light, it literally is about how they are created and the amount of light that they, you know, because the highest level angelics are those who are knowledgeable of the matter of creation, and they are so removed from anything physical that we are. So you know, this idea of we're moving from 3D to 5D is very simplified. You know, it's very now. That will move, that sort of talk. That will move because there's so many dimensions and possibilities available to us each, as well as a mass. So it was a way of getting us to understand, you know, it's like teaching a child something. It has to be something solid, it has to be basic, this, then this. And then once we reach a point where we're trusting what we're believing and what we're hearing, and it starts to come true, and we have the proofs, then we start to run with it, you know. But so
Yeah.
if the angels are dispersed light, different densities of light, us moving away from 3D to me has got to be similar. We're going to move away from relying on this physical form, and perhaps from it actually not living that long. Perhaps we're going to evolve into something that can sustain a longer life, you know, and
That's
actually
that's
can remember
that's
life.
that's what I've
Because
been guided to understand, that that's going to change significantly as we change.
yeah. So do you work with angelics then? How do you
I
get your information?
Yes, I do. I've been working with the angelic realms, particularly some of the archangels like Archangel Michael, since I was in my 20s. And I first had an experience back then. I think I've always worked with them since I was a child, but I didn't know I was working with them because I didn't have a name or an understanding of them. But as I got to be about 18, 19, or 20, and I started to really dive into a deeper part of myself, I connected with the angelics. They came to me and I started to be initiated and started to do work with them, to do work with them, like side by side. And I started to assist humanity in different ways. But at that time, I wasn't really able to talk about it. As time has grown further and further, I've been able to share more and express more. But I have been on the mission with them, beside them. And now I look at it differently, Kirsty, and I'm not sure how you see it, but I feel more those those light beings have more integrated within me. So I'm more incarnating them and working with them on a simultaneous level. There's not as much channeling or information separately coming in. It's just more in me. It's a knowing now. And it's been a knowing for quite some time now. And I appreciate you asking me about it because I don't usually share too much about it. But now that I met you in a more formal sense, I feel like we have so much in common that we never knew.
Yeah, that's what I prefer to to connect with people rather than just be interviewed, because I actually don't feel so comfortable with being put as like an expert or whatever, because I'm not. I'm just a person who's doing my best, and because this has been so big and so much in my life, I had to have an outlet for it, and that became writing about it. And then, of course, that became something that people were then asking me, and it just grew from there. So yes, I'm fascinated what you say about your angelic working, because I think everybody's experience is entitled to be different. And there's no point anybody listening to what I say and my experience and then judging themselves by it. I'm always saying that in everything I say, because I talk a lot about sixth sense ability, and because I feel that the sixth sense development has been a big part of the evolution that at the moment isn't registered officially, but there's those people who've been through it know it. So like you said, I think another thing you just said about you couldn't speak about it. Don't you think that all of us were in a position like that when we were younger? And it's only recently that we're feeling the doors opened for us.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so
I feel this sense of liberation in the way that we're sort of the majority instead of the minority. And I feel like that's one of the shifts that has turned, the tide that has turned in recent times is we're now we're now sort of in the forefront. So we've kind of been pushed from the back of the bus to the front of the bus. And as you said, there's kind of always been that sort of uncomfortability of like how to frame this and what to say and not to have any sort of wording or experience shared that's like a better than less than, but more of like an inclusionary idea of all existence. And I think because the angelics internally and externally are all about the evolution of humanity, it's so important to always bring that message home.
I think yeah, I love it. Can I write that down? I'll just put that on my next blog.
You sure
But yeah,
can.
but just what I mean, that we are. This is what my guides always tell me, that I keep saying to them, I'm not coming on doing this, or I'm not going to go and do that, and they're always saying to me, they will, who we're sending you to, or whether it's a person, individually, or whether it's this sort of situation, or whether I'm talking to myself and there's hundreds of people watching, they say to me, you have to trust that the right people are getting this. They're clicking and they know what you're talking about already, because I keep thinking I have to justify it, and they're saying no, they're already there. It's an energetic link straight away. So it's just about finding those people, because I think that one of the hardest things we're going through is that we're still not finding those people in our physical lives very easily. We still seem to be planted in the, in where we're the oddballs, and yet when we link together, which the internet has provided this amazing space for, like you and I, it's like, oh, yes, you're on. Oh, great, it's you. Hello. Oh, yeah. I don't have to explain myself anymore. But there's
Yes.
so many people that think I'm odd in my family, and they say, oh, you write a blog. What's that about then? Well, oh, have you got a couple of weeks to,
We got a
to
couple
sit
of
down and
years.
listen to me? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
feel
I don't know if you're finding that. But sorry, carry
yeah,
on.
I
Go.
think I kind of have a bit of an explanation to why I think that up until this point we haven't been able to merge as much. Is I feel like we've been very concentrated in very dense places on the planet, and that density we've part of our mission is to change that density. So we haven't been able to like have too much fun with it in the sense of camaraderie of each other. We are just very centered, you know, third eye mission of we have to like do this work and we have to like hold this space and hold this energy and be of this divine, you know, kindness and heart centeredness that, you know, it seemed odd in the world that we've been living in. It didn't seem to fit and didn't seem to make sense. But now it's so honored and there's so much space held for us now because that's where people are finally wanting their destination to be. In the past, it was not like that, and so it's just been so opening for us in that way. And I'm so excited that me and you are connecting today because I didn't know before this how much you were connected to the same things that I was, but I followed it and I've been following all of my flow that's guiding me all the time. I don't know if you know, the same as you. I've been away from social media. I haven't done a podcast in like over 2 months. And I've been very strategically guided when and how I'm supposed to integrate this because there's so much noise and the codes are only going to come through when the noise is quieted. And right now, the noise for a period of time, for days and weeks, is going to be quieted for us to get the messages out.
Okay, yeah, I get you, because this mid part of this year has been so intense, hasn't it? I mean, you only have to look at the news. If you could look at a list of things that have happened in the news since maybe June, it's just been the weirdest time of high intensity. But that's because it's an intensity of spiritual support as well and spiritual change. So um, I was told to express those sorts of times as a light bridge. And I did a lot of talk initially when it was the pandemic times, when it was 2020, you know, and we had all the, this is when they actually pushed me to come on and talk. And actually I was very unwell at that time and I did not want to. And I went through a very difficult time pushing against the guides, and then they had to actually manifest in front of me, which they've never done. And I was actually had an experience of a guide that I could see transcendent actually becoming a physical person stood in the room and going, right, look. And it was very, very unnerving. The whole of my life has been like that. I've had to learn that I'm not a mental health case, and I've had to learn it by their yeah, but I'm just saying this because it's not very responsible to come on the internet and start talking about stuff unless you know you're coming from the right place, because all
Exactly.
my life I've been guided by the spirit realm to learn the proofs. I told you one this morning, just now before we came on, about the TV. I was told there's an electrical fault and be careful turning it off, and it's actually not working at all down in that. And I didn't listen because I hear these things so often and so much that it becomes a bit like Kirsty soup, like you say. I don't know if that was a guide talking, if that was a fear, if that's something I saw on telly that frightened me and I get myself in a state. And the guides have taught me all along through proofs, and part of that has been through manifesting and talking to spirits, bringing spirits to me, giving information. I went through a big patch of giving mediumship to people because I needed the proofs that I was right and that what I was seeing was right. And no one was more surprised about being given an angelic journey as me, because this all became about through 2020. And the guide said to me, you need to learn about your illness, because it's your illness that we need to teach people about. And my illness is a nervous system disorder, and it is exactly what you would call ascension symptoms.
Wow.
It's the same thing. It's been an actual hellish time because I was housebound for 2 years because of it.
Wow.
And the guides were saying to me, we still want you to connect. We want you to start doing readings. I was like, I don't want to do readings. I'm ill. I can't hardly move. And they were like, no, we want you to trust. And they connected me with a few people, just a small amount of people, on the first time ever, all around the world. They were online like this, doing readings. And every single one of them had the same illness as me, and I couldn't believe it. And I had to tell them what I'd been told about the illness, about how you get better. 25% of people who are diagnosed with the illness I have never get out of bed again. And I had to really listen to all this stuff about what is the real cause of nervous system problems, and how I need to regulate my nervous system. And I've had to learn things that I just had no idea about, and then it was put into an angelic context. The way the world is going to evolve is likely to cause many people to go through this dysregulated nervous system. And so we're across that time, since 2020 to now, you will now find, you could type in somebody talking about nervous system dysregulation very easily. But back then it wasn't, and it definitely wasn't associated with the spiritual progress. That actually happened through spirit connecting me with a joint friend of ours, Dr. Joe.
Yes.
That connection happened because they told me, watch this clip, and it was him talking about his PhD and how he'd studied the heart and the nervous system, and how breathing was the key to a lot of health issues. And I went, he's got the answer to getting me better, so we connected and we ended up doing
Oh,
talks about it.
wow.
And
Okay.
so that's how we've got a link, because I wouldn't be better like this if it wasn't for him.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible. Yeah,
and
I think I take for granted, Kirsty, and I want to just take this brief moment to acknowledge I have always had, I do have some indigenous lineage ancestry that runs through me, and I've taken for granted in a lot of ways that I've always had a very deep knowing of herbs, of how to take care of my body, and I've always listened to the voices that always told me, you need to eat this, stop eating this, don't eat this. I've drank spring water for over 15 years that I actually get from a spring every 2 weeks. I go to a spring and I get my own personal spring water. So I have a relationship with my water. And I have drank so much water, healthy water, and put that into my body for probably over 20 years now. And I think I feel guided to say that because I listened to all the things, even though they were outside of what normal people were doing, and a lot of things were like more cutting edge than they are now, I was doing those things a long time ago. And it feels now like that humanity's catching up to the ways that I've been taking care of myself all along. And so I
yeah,
think that somehow, because of all that, I've bypassed some of these big ascension initiations that are
yeah,
happening to get people to the next levels of themselves. But I also feel that it's also a part of humanity's learning stage to go through these things that they have to push through as yourself. Like you were having to go through that and still do the work. And that was a huge initiation for you.
it still is, unfortunately, because it's a toughie, but it's something that I have actually asked the guides about. And because I was talking to them about, oh, this, you said you can change contracts, can you change my contract to get this illness off? And the answer is, well, yeah, we can, but you've got to come back. And do you want to, no, let's do it now. No, don't change my contract, let's keep going through this. Right, what do you need me to learn? Then
Yeah.
they don't, this is the thing, people think that when you've got a connection to spirit, or you work with a guide, because I've worked with guides since I was a little kid, and they think that, oh, they've got all the answers for me, and they come and they want you to tell them, oh, is this man that I think's not very good, is he actually really lovely like I want him to be? And they want you to fix their life up. But actually what we're going through, as I said at the beginning, this evolution that we're going through, it actually isn't all rainbows and unicorns. It's actually very physically tough.
Oh,
And
and don't you
what you've
feel,
just
Kirsty?
stated.
Don't you feel too that, at least the way it has come through me, is that the more that I am able to understand and know, the more responsibility I have. So that's a very, like, know better, do better. Like, that's the way I see it. Like, the more abilities that come online and tap in, the more responsibility I have with those abilities. It's not simply like, like Spider-Man, like, oh, I can just have these spidey skills where I can just do these things. No, like, everything has to come through a filter of that angelic truth and balance that has to work for everyone's highest good. It's not a magic wand that you put on someone's head and, it doesn't, that's not how it works.
You were right when you said that you felt guided to put things in your body, and that was coming through a lineage. That's the sort of person I'm talking about when I say my guide says to me, go and say this, and I say, I'm not saying that, that'll make me look weird. Say it because they get it. So you're exactly the sort of person that, it's not me saying it. So when I read my blog, sometimes I read it back and think, really? I don't remember writing it, and I'm actually surprised, and I'm thinking, really, this is going to happen? That's going to, because I do like a forecast for the sea, and I was doing it with my guide the other day, and when I come off and I couldn't remember what was on there, and I read it back, I had to keep reading it because I was like, I can't have written this because I can't even understand it. And it's
because
such a
you
weird
you
time.
got out of the way, and you let your divine spirit and all the things, the universe, work through your mouth and work through your throat chakra and give you the ability to speak out through this huge stage exactly what needs to be heard by exactly the people that need to hear it.
Yeah, but your example of being somebody is it in your family line then? Is it like heritage? So you're actually, see that's actually coming through your life now. This is what I'm trying to express to people about multidimensional. This is why you can't aim to judge your progress by somebody else at all, or the way that you feel spiritual or it works through you. It's all individual because it's so new, and I mean, my connection to that sort of lineage isn't through the ancestry, but it's through a memory of past life, and it's past life that was given to me very young. And I knew all along, actually the name that I had in that life is the name that the spirits used to call me. They never called me Kirsty. In fact, I find the name Kirsty really hard to relate to, because it's almost like a mask or an item of clothing. It's such a weird thing. I feel like it can't express what's, in all this. But my early experiences, as I said, nobody was more surprised than me to work with angelics, because I've not been somebody that's been brought up to know about angelics or to work in that way. I was brought up church, and that's the way that I took into spirituality. But can you hear me?
Oh, yep, now I can. It came back. It just was a blur.
Oh, okay. So my seeing and my proofs has been all sorts. It's been, I see dead people. Yeah, that was, when I was a kid, I couldn't understand why everybody couldn't, and I've seen the demonics, and I've seen the fallen angels, I've seen demons, I've seen the whole spectrum. I've met spirits that have committed suicide, and I've had them brought to me and had really good conversations with them. Actually, in such weird way.
I too have had communications, many communications with people that have passed on.
Yeah, but I would say that my background before I was ill, if you like, even though I was Reiki teacher and I was running angel classes and meditation classes and all that. My background, I thought, is quite shadowy spiritually because of what I've seen. I've always seen the dark ones, you know, I've always seen the ones that are up to no good. And I've always said, I could see you, you know, and they've been, you know, you know, I can remember things like when I was a little kid, someone was trying to talk to me in a room and there was a man and he kept coughing. And every time the person trying to speak to me, he'd keep coughing really loud on purpose, thinking it was funny, you know, really on purpose. And I remember just saying, "Oi, shut up, I could see you." And he just went, you know, but of course the other person can't see it. But I've had this all my life. So I've always had this strange sense of perhaps I'm a weirdo. And it's been hard for me to transition into coming as a sort of angelic speaker. The way it happened was when I had the visitations from Saint Faustina. That's what started it all off, because I worked on proofs as, like I say, as a kid, the guides taught me on proofs. You know, if what we're saying doesn't come true, you've imagined this, and then it happens. That's how they taught me. When I was a young adult, I had a guide that I absolutely had such a good connection with, and I really miss him. And he taught me about energy protection of dark. So I saw a lot of dark things with him. And the thing is, I needed to, because I was vulnerable and I needed to see and understand all this darkness, you know. So I was actually very surprised about the angelic stuff, but it all came through the visitation I had from Saint Faustina when I was in hospital and I was ill. For 4 days I was visited by her, and I was in hospital for 2 weeks. And I didn't know that a family friend was attending a church where they were doing the rosary and doing the prayer for Saint Faustina, which is called the Divine Mercy Prayer. And had got together and they did it for me because they heard I was ill and they were worried. I was also pregnant and they were worried about that. And I didn't know any of that. I was just, you know, I was really incapacitated in hospital. It was a very worrying time. And I just knew that somebody visited me in the night, and I actually thought it was an old-fashioned nurse, because all I can remember is she was just wearing this headdress that you couldn't hardly see her face, and it came right forward. So when she was bending over me, she kept touching my forehead and talking gently to me. This big thing seemed so like cardboard, you know, and I could see it, and I couldn't hardly see her skin. She had clothes right up to her, you know, over her wrists. You couldn't hardly see any of her body, but she was so gentle and kind. I just thought, oh, this is the spirit of an old nurse, because this sort of thing happened to me regularly, seeing spirits like this, you know. It was only when I came out of hospital and my friend phoned me and said, oh, I hope you didn't mind, but I asked this group to do this prayer for you. And I was like, what? You know, and I said, what, Saint Faustina? So I looked it up, and when I saw her picture, I couldn't believe it. That is absolutely her, you know, and that's
Wow.
how I built a connection with Saint Faustina, who has been one of the guides that has worked with me on the Angelic Agenda that I speak of now. You know, and that has been really, that has taken over my life so much, because
What does she,
her
what,
first
what,
words to me,
yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about her? Because I'm not very versed in her work.
okay, so let me just tell you, when she first walked in, I remember her words, "Hello, I work for Mary." And of course I was like, Mary, who the blooming hell's that? You know, I didn't know she meant, because I had no connection to anything like that in my life at that time. I think I was about 29 when this happened. I'm 53 now, so it was quite a long time ago, you know. So but Saint Faustina is the apostle who brought through the Divine Mercy image of Jesus, where the lights or the rays are coming from his heart, the red blood and water. And he asked her to have this painting commissioned, and she had a really tough time she was a nun in Poland, only young, and she had to go to the bishop and say, Jesus has been coming to me, and and she had a really tough time proving it. And eventually it got proven, and it's actually still very controversial. There's been times in history where the Vatican has tried to suppress it and thought, oh no, it's too new age. Saint Faustina is too new age, because she's like us. If you were to meet her now, if she came to you as a guide, you'd have that connection you had with me. She doesn't feel like a very stiff Catholic nun at all. She's got if you look at her diaries, she wrote diaries because the bishop asked her to, because she was having so much connection with angels, archangels, and she was told so much information about angels that are in charge of buildings or countries, or and every angel she gave us a lot of the angel understanding that we have. People don't credit her for it, because where it's coming through the Catholic Church, they try to own it a lot and bring it into their doctrine. But the prayer that she made, created, whatever you want to say, the Divine Mercy prayer is followed and is a known. And it was John Paul II that decided that he wanted Saint Faustina to be really somebody.
Can you say that one more time? You broke up a little bit.
Where did I get to?
Can you say that last thing you just said?
Oh, so about the John Paul II.
Oh, go ahead.
Gone off again, has it? So it was John Paul II that wanted to venerate Saint Faustina and recognize her work. But if you get hold of her diaries that she wrote for the bishop, because nuns couldn't come out and say, I'm doing this and I can see Jesus, and no one would, but it had to be the bishop that said yes,
Through the masculine. Yep.
Yeah, and she lived in a tough time. It was like you or I being born in that body and having that mission. She's quite open about that. So she is definitely, she's the apostle of the Divine Mercy. The Divine Mercy is the grace of God over the judgment. And this is very, very important for our times, the message and how it's actually been run with. It's not, she tells me that a lot of what she said has been tampered with. It's not actually, well, you could believe that.
Distorted, yeah. So much of the Bible
Yeah,
and so much of the stories are distorted.
Yeah, so it was really, my angelic mission was very much connected to having seen her and spoken to her as a proof that these people are real. These people, this nun appeared to me. I had no clue that she'd been sent to me like that. A proof appeared. She said to me, I work for Mary. I believe it. These people on the other side are real. But,
yeah.
like I said, just as much as I've seen other saints as well, but just as much as I've seen the saints and the angels, I've also seen the demons. And, I find that the spiritual community doesn't quite want to look at it, doesn't want to understand that.
And that's really important that you're bringing this up, because once again, I think we have to integrate the idea of the dark and the light. We have to merge those understandings to recognize and realize that as a collective, we had decided that we wanted to have the split. And now we're coming back together. But in order to come back together, we have to give a valued story to both sides. That's how I feel anyway.
You can see both sides playing out in the real world. And the intensity that we talked about that was earlier, June, July, August, the intensity that we've seen has played out on the political stage. But it's not just on the political stage, it's just in the public arena. You can see both sides, the dark and the light. You can see, and I've always talked about the angelic stuff that I'm told, which I call an angelic agenda. And I call it that because at the very beginning, when I was first told about, what I was going to speak about, I was told that it counterbalances other agendas. And I assume they meant dark. So I've therefore called it, the inverted agenda, and people don't want to see it because they don't want to focus. They want to focus a lot on the rainbows and the unicorns, and I'm out in nature and it's beautiful, but they've got to watch it because the dark stuff is very tricky and it's clever, and it knows they want to do that. It knows they want to turn a blind eye to it, if you like, but we have to face it, and it's part of what we're going through. We're almost imploding. That's why we're finding our shadow selves inside of us. We're finding darknesses. I'm not an angelic person as Kirsty walking around the planet. I'm only listening and trying to put forward what I'm hearing. I can't promise the world that I'm an angelic being. I'm not. So we're not ready to be. That's why we need the angelic intervention. And a lot of the stuff that we're seeing happening on the inverted agenda, I'm always nervous to say it because people don't want to hear it, but it is the stuff about when you see the demonics, theatrics at world events such as the Olympics, etc.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It is all that stuff. And I'm really sorry if people don't want to see it and hear it, but what I've seen and known all my life leads me to feel that we've got to watch all of that, and we've got to focus on steadying our course to being what you said earlier.
I don't think you can truly integrate and become whole and really become divinely neutral until you witness and accept, you're not accepting it to give it power. You're accepting it to understand it's part of things. And once you accept that it's part of things, you can then move past it, and you can then travel more into your light body and become that divine neutral. And that's the part that I think people are missing in the spiritual communities, and the constant talking about light, 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 light. Although that's exactly what we are, we're becoming more light, but we cannot disassociate ourselves from what we came from. We can't deny and close our eyes to what hasn't been integrated yet.
Yeah. And that dark and light is within us. But at the moment, we're clearing a huge amount of karmic persecution. Many people that feel they're spiritual seekers have that sense that they've, somehow been persecuted for their beliefs, either in this current life or that it comes from somewhere else. Many people have that sort of sense, or they relate to people. Many people say to me, I think I was Joan of Arc. And I say to them, well, no, you weren't Joan of Arc, because Joan of Arc is a living saint, like Faustina, like all the saints. They're living saints. But they feel that affinity because they're recognizing something within deep resonation that is not in memory of a similar experience,
Right.
And so the karmic clearance that we're going through, we have to understand that we are the victim and we are the perpetrator. We're holding both.
Yep.
We like to think of ourselves as the good guys all the time. It's not always the case. We're sometimes clearing that we've been an actual complete, dark, could have been anything in a previous life because you needed to learn it. So
yeah, because it's the idea
the other
that
thing
we've all lived hundreds or thousands of lives, and we've all been everything. And so if we can't accept those parts of us that were not what we are in this particular moment, then we can't get past it. We have to see it all.
Yeah. I think that's where the current, look at trauma and the mental health work is coming from. That we actually are really clever at sabotaging ourselves.
Say that again?
I think that humans are very, very clever at sabotaging their own self. And, you know, this is what has made all the current work on trauma in the wellbeing world so popular. Why there's so many mental health issues, this intensity that we're going through at the moment, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's evolution, it's angelic, it's light, it's everything, but it's also heavy, dark, evil, you know, it's both. And we're having to try and sort this all out, you know. It's a tough time to be alive at the minute.
Oh, yes. It is very challenging because I think what a lot of humans are going through right at this moment is the very high highs where they get all this blissed out energy, where they feel super light, where they feel super happy. And then they also have these really low lows where they're crying and they're super depressed and they don't know why they're upset. And it's that processing of those two levels. And what happens is the more and more that you work through things and you get to more balance, you get to that neutrality place. And then what happens is, because I kind of have been feeling for myself that I've been in more of a state of witnessing the bumps and not getting stuck in them and not circling and getting stuck in the old cycles. So when something happens that feels out of balance or doesn't feel like it's good, instead of creating a story or going into a loop, I just witness it and it's gone. And I think everyone is coming into that right now, into that space of just seeing everything kind of as the same, you know, still having happy and sad and having the emotions, but not being overly stuck and looping into the heavy stuff. And it's a work of progress. It takes time and energy and understanding and compassion and grace for yourself, and it takes a lot of separating yourself from the external and going inside, you know, through meditation, through grounding, through walking outside and being with nature, through being around away from big crowds of people and lots of people and their stuff. You have to take the time for yourself.
Yeah, and I think this is why many spiritual people feel quite isolated at the moment. You know, my remit, as I call it, has been to speak to a group, not to generalize people who are spiritual seekers, but a certain group, and that is what I've called the sensitives. So my early talks were very gentle and it was all people that are suffering who have actually hit a brick wall in life. Either they've gone through a bad illness, or they've been you know, tried to kill themselves and had to pull themselves into recovery from that for whatever reason, or they've been physically changed by an accident.
Wow.
These people, there's many spiritual souls incarnated in that type of experience at the moment. This is what I learned from my own illness, that
Wow.
this is what I have to do. It's no good me keeping on saying, will you hurry up and fix me so I can go and tell people the message? No, I have to, it's part of it. I can't,
Right.
they go together, you know, it has to go with it. It's a process. So the beginning, I was speaking to people very gently, and I feel that I've won a lot of trust from very sensitive people who are trying to really come back from an actual very dark corner in their life. That has grown because I've had to incorporate wider issues, but I've still got that core group of people that follow me and message me and connect with me, and they're often very much connected to the Mother Mary entity in a very sacred way, much more than I could ever understand. They, you know, some of the people that I'm asked to speak to or for or to encourage are much higher frequency than I am, but they're going through such a physical dense difficulty that it's suppressed, you know. So in hearing what I'm saying to them, a part of them is waking up and hearing it, if you know what I mean. So it's been an
Yeah.
interesting journey.
Well, I feel you're definitely connected to the Magdalene, the Rose lineage. I feel that connection to you through that. And that's a very divine sisterhood, initiation
Yeah,
that has what started way back then and has trickled through very, distinct branches of humanity. And I definitely feel I see that in your energy. I see that in the way that you speak. And I also very connected to seeing your fairy. I see your fairy energy. You have a lot of fairy energy
yeah,
around you. And
yeah,
it's very sweet, it's like kind of like I feel like it's one of my best friends. It's like your energy is very like best friend energy through the fairies. Like the fairies are they're all around you, and they're yeah, I had to make sure that I told you that I saw that, because it's really
well, yeah,
I
you're
love
the
that about
first.
your energy.
I'm so happy that you've picked that up, because you're the first person ever, because I don't talk about that, but I always know that I'm an elemental. My family are elementals. You know, they look like little hobbits and pixies and things. I've always known that, and my energy buzzes like wings buzzing, not flap wings. you know. So yeah, I'm really happy that you've picked that up, because that is one of the reasons why I say I've actually seen dark, because Fae energy is dark. It's the magic side of it, and the naughtiness and the mischievousness, and actually the spitefulness, all of that realm. It's all part of my background, and I can feel parts of it, and I can remember as a child I could really resonate with, being a really angry pixie or whatever. But I don't talk about that, so I'm glad you've picked that up.
No,
But yeah, so
I have worked with that realm a lot as well. I think I got a little bit away from it, but I felt more connected and did more work with that when I was younger, when I was more of a child. I had a lot more depth of that, and it's coming back through now, because I'm getting so close to Gaia through nature. I've been having so many breakthroughs and so many downloads from from creation and from the realms of the animal world. And I work with birds of prey, so I work the bald eagles come through, and they give me a lot of messages, and the red-tailed hawks, and various birds of prey, which also work with the fairies and with all that realm. Like, it's all interchangeable, and it's just, to me, sometimes I just rather be there. And I just rather exist there and just not even be in this human body. And I know that I made this contract to be in this physical vessel and to work with the angelics in the broader picture. That but you're where you're at, like where you sit with the fairies. I have a bunch of that inside of me too, like a bunch.
yeah, the girls just want to have fun energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what you're saying about Mary Magdalene, a lot of people are saying that to me lately. But one of the things that I was told through the saints and the angelics that I've worked with is actually the rose lineage of Mother Mary, and how much this has been forgotten and suppressed. And I've actually written a lot about that on my blog. Mother Mary was she was part of the SN tribe, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. She was the Levi tribe,
Yep.
and her whole lineage was about sacred women. And she was designed, she wasn't just a normal human that happened to, oh, I'm going to have the son of God or whatever. She was prepared in every way, and as a baby she was a special, unique, she was almost goddess, in what was seen. All of this is suppressed because the church, the Catholic Church, does not want her to be goddess. they do everything to avoid that. But really, she is co-redeemer, and then we really do need to replace her as, you know, the being that we, if you like, even if people could think of her as Mother Nature, even if people could sort of lend to that, she has been persecuted more than anybody, you know, because the story that we know of her is some young girl that was pregnant on a donkey, and then next minute she's at the cross. We don't know about her life, we don't know who she was, what her family was, and you know, there is information out there, there is scripture out there about her and about her background, so I encourage people to find out about. So although I'm aware of the Magdalene line and the Rose mission, and I've connected with a lot of my guide calls them, I call them Sisters of the Rose, but my guide calls them the men. He calls them the Knights of the Heart, because he talks about how they have in previous life made a ritualistic promise to serve the divine feminine with Mary as its embodiment. Mother Mary, not Magdalene. You know, Magdalene would have learnt from Mary. She would have been, you know, a lot, yes, in her own right, she was her own entity, but she would have learnt a lot of the sacredness and the ritual and that came down the maternal line through Mother Mary, and that would have continued after Jesus's death. You know, they would have been connected for a long time, those two, and that's all lost to us. And it's only people like us that are finding it and piecing it together, you know. So yeah, it's very fascinating, isn't it, how the world is hearing things that have been tried. You can't bury things sometimes. You can't bury, like I said, you know, spirits will send you proofs, and if they want you to know something, you'll know it.
Well, and I do
So
believe there's a divine blueprint in every single female that exists on this, you know, this earth, that carries a seed and a fractal of that truth. And it's a matter of just getting into a space of allowing that information to come through you. And I think that every single human being has the same abilities and capabilities that we have of being able to both hear and be in these spaces, even though everyone's story is unique and everyone has to walk through it uniquely. I believe we all have all the divine information inside of us, and that we, especially now, but it's always been the case, that we just need to quiet ourselves to let it come through and let it come out in us. And you know, a lot of people are constantly seeking outward and going to other people and books and external forces, and I'm not saying that that is a wrong or bad thing to do, but what I am saying is it's all inside. Every single piece of information that you need in the infinite Akashic is all inside. And as long as you believe and understand and be quiet and listen through meditation or a numerous amount of different ways, through breathing, as you mentioned, there's so many different ways to tap into it. That information will come up and come through you, and you will get it as, but you have to trust it, have discernment, and understand what is a knowing and what is just coming through, you know, and it's a lot of trusting and a lot of development of discipline and discernment. And those things are going to assist each human in really developing that knowing that we all have, because we're infinite pieces of God. So we all have all the information. We don't have to go to anything. We can just tap into ourselves because we've all been everything. So if we've all been everything, then we have, you know, the ability to tap into all the facets to give us any information to quantum jump into any version of our lives and be able to assist ourselves. Because I know personally, I have done that. I've done it many, many times in this incarnation where I've gone into different versions of myself and brought them forward to get through very hard and troubling missions. I thankfully have not had a physical body suffering of disease, but I've had to go through emotional roller coasters, like unbelievable things that a lot of humanity could have, would have be very challenged to go through. And I had to tap into other things for me to be able to get through those things. And I
Yeah.
didn't slice my personality and have to create personality changes or, different personalities. I was able to quantum jump into things that I could heal myself and soothe myself. And I'm very fortunate and grateful. And I've actually never shared that into that depth that I just shared this with you, Kirsty. So thank you for being an opener for that.
Well, I just love hearing it. That's what I love to hear, because you don't hear, like I said, we're in a world where most people we're talking to on 3D level, are you going to the shops? What did you do at work? To actually connect with somebody who gets it is just so special. So I was just going to say to you to round off where we were at the beginning when I was telling you that all of the angelic intervention is to support the evolution of humanity, and that it's, even though it's been made to look like it's happening fast, it isn't. It's actually a very slow, because it's, we're going to evolve into a different dimension. We won't need to exist on this planet. So any concerns about the planet's going to blow up or whatever, we will be beyond that by then. But the message that you said about, you felt that you looked after your own body and that you were guided to get the natural water and all that sort of thing, that is the evolution that we need to look at. And what we are seeing, the idea of the 3D world falling away, I don't know where you are, but where I am, that looks like institutions that have seemed to have been to support us, such as the health service in the UK, which we were all so reliant on, has suddenly dropped away because of whatever political reasons. And we're now having to think of alternate routes, if you like, to health.
Yeah.
That will be the way that the worlds drop and change, that we'll have to stop having these false reliances,
Outside
and we
external
have to,
forces.
and we have to be recognizing, hang on, what's right for me and what have I got resource within me. And a lot of that is about belief. And for me, the journey of illness and recovery has been about belief. It's about everything about my life has been about proofs and belief. It's almost like I've had to learn some sort of deep insecurity, perhaps. But the more I can do things, the more I believe I'll be better, if you like. So it's been a journey like that, and a journey of balance. And I've hit a point where it's pointless me ringing a doctor, because first of all, they'll say, we don't know about your illness. You'll diagnose it, but we don't know what causes it, and we don't know how to fix it. So I just say to them, well, I'll come back and tell you. So that's what I'm doing.
Good for
and the
you.
best
You're
doctor that
teaching
I
them.
ever had.
Good for you. You're teaching them, because they need a few lessons
Yeah.
from you.
The best doctor that I had, and I didn't listen to her. Like I said to you, I hear so much. Either someone says to me something that's really resonant, but I don't hear it. I don't take it on board enough till after, because I'm so busy or whatever. But I remember going to when I was early stages of the illness, and there was a doctor, and she knew that I was at that time I had been working as as angelic teacher, a Reiki master. I was doing readings, and I was running a place locally which had got very popular, and even people were coming to it from like London, and it was getting big, it was growing, and I was becoming a known person. I didn't know that. So she knew of me from that. And I remember sitting and looking at her and saying, this and that. And she just put all the things down, sort of put them to the side, and she said, Kirsty, if anyone's going to solve this and heal this, it's you. And
You know
at the
what?
time, I really, I didn't take on.
That was an angel. That was an angel
Yeah,
telling you
yeah,
that. That was an angel
yeah,
coming to you in a human form to tell you to stop going external, Keep going internal. You're doing it, and this is the right thing. I'm so happy that happened for you.
Yeah, but like I say, that must have been 4 years ago, and I've only just thought, yes, I've got to listen to that, and I've got to remember it. It takes me time. I'm not somebody who's working with angelics. Actually, I think I'm hard work for them, because I always question them, and I'm always telling them no. And I'm that naughty pixie that you said about, right? So if I can just finish on telling a nice story of proofs, and of sort of like that describes my relationship of how I work with guides. Recently, in this summer, we lost a family member, and what happened was they became very ill, and we were all surprised. It happened within 3 weeks. They were unwell, and we were all trying to hear this was going to be done, that was going to be done, and it was like, it was sliding downhill very, very quickly. And I got the phone call, this person has been taken into a hospice, which means that's care for passing,
Yeah.
that's the end. And I thought, well, it's this family member is a little bit distant from me. It was a man as well. I've already expressed to you that the family around me and the people I'm with are not as me. We don't have conversations of spiritual things. It's all about what we're having for dinner. What did you do at work? Are you going over to this and that? I know. It's all very 3D. So the guides came to me and said, you're going to go in there and you're going to say that this person is going to meet old friends on the other side, and we've already arranged it, and tell this person these old friends are going to be there to meet, and you're going to tell him. And I turned around and said, no way I'm saying that. How inappropriate. I'm not going into a hospice and being all la-di-da, I'm an angel medium or whatever. No, I said, the only way that will happen is if that person instigates the conversation, which has never happened. I've met them in 1987. So in all that time, that conversation has never come up.
That was how it ended. Then I wasn't going to get involved in their passing. I was going to stay away from it. I got a phone call, can you come up to the hospice? So I went up to the hospice. I was going to just wave through the door. But the guy sat up and put his arms out to me when he saw me through the door, called me in, put his arms out to me, held my hands, and with all of his family members stood around him, said to me, what's going to happen to me when I die? And I said to him, you're going to have a surprise. You're going to meet a lot of old friends, and you're going to have a big surprise, and there'll be a few drinks and happy remembrances, and you're going to send me a message to say that you got there and you had your surprise. And he just nodded, and he went, okay, and he was fine. And I looked around, and all the rest of the family were all around the bed, like, couldn't believe that what I'd said, and that afterwards they took me out, and they all said to me personally, thank you for saying that at that time. That really helped me. That made me feel that he was calm. I felt that I could see the vision that you'd said. And I said, okay. So I don't normally talk about the sort of thing. And they said, we know. And they say, well, so is that what you do on your talks and your blogs? Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. They're like, well, thank you for doing it. So just to let you know, the message I gave to my guide, this man did pass 2 days later. And I said to my guide, I know he's over there and I know you've got him, but I want you to tell me that he got his surprise, just as I said, that those friends were there and that he had those cheers, drinks, and here's to old times, and was happy. And I said, you're going to have to send me a rainbow that couldn't be. And when you send me that, I'll know that's him saying that he got his surprise. So a few days later, maybe it was about a week later, I woke up and the guide said to me, it's a rainbow day. And I was like, rainbow day, it's the rainbow day. So all day I was like, it's the rainbow day. I was looking out the sky, no rain. It had been a hot spell for 4 or 5 days. I was looking out, no rain. And then I was starting to think agitated, because I think, oh no,
I shouldn't have said that to him because I've made that up. That wasn't real, because without the proof, I can't settle. I have to have my proof. And I was like, oh no, this is all right, and no rainbows. The weather's, it's not going to be a rainbow day. And then it was near the end of the day, and I went and sat down in the garden, and I just sat on the chair and I laid back and looked up like that. And over my house, and I've got a photo of this, in a hot Sunday we hadn't had any rain for about 4 days, a perfect rainbow arcing over my roof towards the sun.
Wow.
And I just went, good.
That was your affirmation. That was them doing that for you.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
what
you
my
had
life
to
has
trust.
been like.
And it's so important that you told the story, because you have to be able to trust that what you feel versus what you think. So we're going from the brain to the heart, like Dr. Joe would say, the brain heart cohesion, going down. And what that means is basically we are going to stop having to process and understand. We're just going to be in our heart, which just is a knowing. We're just going to know things and feel things, and things are going to be a yes or a no. There's not going to be all this talk up here that's going to make us think that we need something else. We're getting rid of that.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I hope that has been interesting. I've loved talking to you and listening to you. So when I get back onto my I do podcasts, but I talk about sensitivity. It's a special theme. So maybe you'd like to be a guest on that when I do my next season.
I would absolutely love to be on and I would actually love to have you back on again. So if we can coordinate a time that works for you on a weekend again, I would love to have you back. I found this conversation has been so wonderful, so uplifting. I feel like we, the angelic realm that we both work in and the ways that we do brought us together to have this divine conversation, because I honestly did not know that you worked with them. I just know certain things about you, just like you probably did about me, but I had no idea that and I also didn't understand how much you worked with Mother Mary, because Mother Mary is an energy I've worked with a lot through my grandmother. Like, I have a connection to her. And so it's just amazing, all the different synchronicities that were, all the different lines that were connected, and we're finally now really connecting.
Yeah. I think it's been joyful talking to you. That's the word, joyful. I feel lovely, I feel really good that I've done a nice thing. So thank you for that.
Aw, well, thank you. I'm so glad to develop our connection deeper. And I only hope, and I want to hold space for connecting with you more and more whenever you're available, because I feel like we're old friends that just reconnected. Like, we knew each other from a different realm or a different version of ourselves, and now we just finally reconnected.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's an elemental link, isn't it? Because people don't understand angelic elementals. It's quite a certain niche, isn't it?
It is.
That's
It
us.
is.
So.
But the thing that I've been grown to understand, Kirsty, is that everything is connected. So we have pieces of ourselves in all of these different realms and realities. And if we want to, we can step into any of those different versions. So it doesn't just have to be angelic or pixie or fairy. I mean, there's just so many different realms that we have availability to be with. And it's just about allowing it to come through. And I feel like this conversation between us has helped maybe stimulate more of an understanding of that for other ladies and other humans.
Good. Well, I'll have to try and make sure my sound's better for next time if there's been an issue. I'm sorry, I hope that hasn't affected people too much, but
No,
yeah.
There's just a couple times you went in and out, but we know that there's all kinds of shadows and darknesses that are trying to play with things and trying to, tricksters and trickster energies. And so we just need to you know, whatever's meant to get through is always going to get through, because what is created can't be destroyed. So we just created something and it never can be destroyed. So I look forward to Kirsty having you on again, and thank you so much.
Yeah, you too. Love to you. Much love.
And be in touch.
Thank you
and
very much.
We'll reach out to each other on Messenger and keep talking, okay?
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.